We're a group of Gen Xers who became aware of our neurodiversity later in life. Join us as we share stories, interesting topics, and talk to special guests. Welcome to Season 2 of This Is How My Brain Works.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of This Is How My Brain Works. We've been having some exciting pre-show discussions, and we decided we'd better just start recording. So, this is the episode about how we've all been there, doubting ourselves and trying to be open and share and communicate with our people anyway. And sometimes those of us with ADHD do that communicating when we're still flooded. And then maybe we send that really, really personal, I'm turning red even thinking about it. We send that personal email to the wrong person with all the details
Or
of,
wrong group thread.
so that happened this week, and I won't name any names, to someone in our group this week. Cough, cough, Michael. You want to
To
take it
that,
here?
thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
We have Sarah, Michael, this is Jason. Krista Gano is on assignment. Um,
Thank God
and
you're a good host, Michael, because I forget
well,
all the parts. But
well,
you,
you were excited about this topic, and so you launched, and I love it because you were in the zone. Um, this is I will be very I will overthink texts in general, just like is this the right wording, or is this funny enough, or is this the right emoji, or and I have that issue with just writing in general, with whether it's an email or a paper or whatever. Sometimes I'll have like this chunking thing, like this dyslexia almost, where I'll rearrange the thoughts and things. But with text, it's you know the same grammatic rules and the same structures, and it can be very shorthand, obviously, and but sometimes it's the only thing a person will respond to. It's like because people don't necessarily respond to emails anymore. So um, the and when Sarah, as you were saying, like when you're flooded or in an emotional state, it's like, should I really be responding to this right now anyway, or
that
should
was kind
I
of where I was going with
give
this
it a
was,
couple minutes and get regulated before I respond? Um, that we talk about the pause so often, just as far as like pausing or getting regulated before getting back into your wise adult self, rather than responding from your 8-year-old coping self, you know.
and that's kind of what I liked about this text that got sent. So we get this text to the group chat, and I mean, it actually wasn't that personal. But you could tell that Michael had spent a lot of time thinking about how he was going to respond to this other person, and both trying to be gentle and honest about how things had landed for him and kind of his own role in things. It was a lovely text that also probably would be hard to receive and maybe would land hard in anybody else that might feel triggered by it. So apparently there was more texting on the right text thread for Michael, and Michael did the pause according to our preamble pre-game conversations. And
Right.
that made all the difference, right, Michael?
Yeah. I noticed, I took an honest look at my text, and I asked myself an honest question about, like, am I a am I a role in the drama triangle right now? Am I playing a victim role? And possibly, I came up with, like, possibly, I really truly tried to, but the intent behind the text was really to try to say, hey, this is what came up for me in that moment, and I'm just trying to be honest with the whole thing. And then the subsequent texts, that once I and then that text went out to the what's up with your or what's up what's up with your brain, this is how my brain works, um text thread, and I was like, whoops, that was meant to be for someone else. And but everybody got a glimpse, and luckily it was my this is how my brain works crew, because they understand intimately my what I was going through. But anyway, we there was a response, a kind of a triggered response from that. And then I noticed like I was like, hey, I think this is a drama triangle. I kind of stepped into this thing. I'm just gonna like this is just respond in a like thank you for sharing your experience and just let it go, let it breathe for a while. And then once everybody had time to kind of think on it, the um the correspondence resumed in a much more kind of regulated, healthy way where it's still smarts to really accept when you are when you do have to really acknowledge and be accountable for like this is me getting triggered and this was my reaction. This is me being reactive and this is me being um upset and and um and just owning that without being guaranteed that you're going to get any kind of sympathy on the other side. It's a very vulnerable space to be in, and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, as the unintended recipient, it made me feel better about my own mistakes. Um, One, I so appreciated seeing how vulnerable and kind you were in your text and the effort. It was the effort, the emotional effort that I saw that really spoke to love for yourself and love for your partner who you were trying to talk to. Even if it wasn't like the perfect sentence or whatever, it was inspiring to me as someone who's always trying to um, manage my own feelings and be kind to others that I encounter, that I just really appreciated it.
Well, yeah, and like I said, and that's very nice to hear and validating, and like, and as I mentioned, it went to the right place for where I could get some support for through the whole thing. Um, Rudy, what thoughts do you have?
I'm well, the truth is I'm paralyzed. Like, I mean, I don't know how long it took you to write that, but I can imagine the wording was deliberate. You had to change some words, change some punctuation. Say, I mean, I know how it is. I had a um I had a text a friend who had just lost a family member. Like I'm always thinking like what's like, hey man, sorry for your loss. Oh, that doesn't sound right. Hey bud, hey, thinking of you. Uh, is that too much? Right? Are we on
Right.
that level? Like, are we on that level of friendship, or is it just like, should I wait until I see him the next time? Just like, hey man, sorry for your loss, or do I text him? Is that's like a higher level of intimacy? You know what I'm talking about? Like, as far as a friendship is concerned, if you're texting someone, I think. Um, but same thing with emails. We talked about it last week when we had our guest on
Mm.
about how sometimes how grueling it is to try. I mean, it could take forever to write an email. Worried about, did I say that right? Is it too much if I use those words? Is that a run-on sentence? You know what I'm saying? Is like, are there too many commas in that? And we're constantly worried about what it's going to look like. And then we'll read it 15 times after we've even sent it. You'll read it over about 15
Absolutely.
times
Yeah.
and think about, and then like, it's like a flood of emotions
You're
come in,
rereading, you're rereading over and over. And sometimes,
rereading.
and then sometimes I'll even follow up with like, by the way, this is
Terrifying.
what I
Right,
meant when I said this, just
right.
so FYI, I meant this,
Well, it's the same
because
thing. If you misspell a word on a text, we all have to, because we're like, oh, I misspelled, whatever word. I mean, we know on the other end what you mean, right? But we always have to follow it up with, an asterisk or a star saying, this is what I meant.
right. I know I don't actually think that's how it's spelled, by the way. I do know how it's spelled, and it's this, or
right. Because you don't
be,
want to look like
because we're
you're not a
worried
good
about,
speller.
the judgment, right? So I'm curious as to like our experience with, I think everybody universally, I think would like um want to make sure to maybe have the right thought or sentiment or something like that. But I feel like for ADHDers, ADHDers, that goes to a different level of fixation, and because there's whether it's people
There's worry,
pleasing,
there's
fear of
fear,
judgment.
and there's also like projecting how it's going to be received,
Well, for
right?
me, it's also I put so much of how what I say is how I say it that the tone is lost in words a lot of times without the
Of
the
course.
style. And so having ADHD or whatever it is that I have that makes I've been misunderstood so many freaking times that that's part of, for me, what's driving. And that was something I was thinking about. Like, so what's driving your rehashing? What's the intent behind your
Yeah.
rehashing the text or the sentence or the commas? For me, it's that I don't want to be misunderstood. I want it to come
Yeah.
across exactly and land exactly right.
Well,
Okay.
and there's also a part of me
Hmm.
in writing a lot of texts and emails, yes, on how the tone is, but I'm just worried about how it will be received. Will it be received like I'm being an asshole? I don't want that. Will it be received like I'm being this? I don't want that. Will it be so it's a constant sort of, you know, looking for new words that aren't as harsh, or new words and different words that seem to convey what you're trying to get across a little. You're just looking for the right words all the time, not to cause like I just don't want to cause like too much of an issue. And the problem is I'm not great with words. I mean, that's another thing. We're very, there's a lot of nonverbal communication, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm just not great with words. And so for me to
Not that
take
you
what's
are
in
good
my
with words.
brain, and to throw it onto paper, there's too much. It's like too much. So consequently, I
Yeah.
don't love writing like that email or that text, but I've definitely been in situations where one, I've sent a text that I shouldn't have to somebody else. And thank goodness it wasn't. I mean, basically it was like you're like warm cheddar cheese all melty and I want to, I mean, basically it was like that. And at least it was a metaphor,
The
right?
steamy
It was a
text.
steamy about, a steamy cheese reference. And I mean, that's the only one I've ever. It was meant to go
And it
to.
went to the wrong person.
It went to the wrong person without
How
question,
wrong?
and it wasn't too bad because
Your
he was
boss.
he was a good friend of mine. Um, but yeah, it's like you're worried. You don't want to stir the pot too much. You're being vulnerable. Um, and I've had a lot of like back and forth text conversations where Michael, I don't have. I mean, I'm getting better since we've been together, but I'm just really still learning how to pause
Yeah,
because
it's so hard.
because the way it riles me up sometimes, where it feels like the other person is not understanding, and then I'm trying to find, getting more angry, more upset, more frustrated, then trying to use other words to explain what I meant, because they're taking it a different way, and it just gets more escalated and escalated. But I have learned, like, look, this isn't a good place to have these conversations. If we want to sit down and have this conversation, but sometimes you need to, it's the only way to communicate. But when you're having these communications through text or through email more often than you're just having face-to-face conversations, so much can get misconstrued. The tone is way off. Sarcasm is at an all-time high. You know what I mean? Like people interpret, like it's nuts. And how do you convey tone? How do you convey facial expressions?
All of
Using
this
an emoji.
is making me feel like we're just living with too many dang people. They did have we talked about this before? The ideal group
Number
size.
in your
humans
circle,
is like
like your
100.
group circle.
Well, the ideal number of a community of humans is like 150, 100 to 200.
I feel like they figured this out at like on the Apple campus or one of those big tech firm campuses like Microsoft or something. They're like, if we have too many people in this building, then things are not as efficient. But if we have little pods of people, then it's
It I think is based in primate research with
yeah.
monkeys and others. I forget the rabbit hole I was in a few decades ago, but comes down to like roughly we like 150. And more than that is hard. We're
Yeah.
stressing ourselves out. And so that we can't craft the perfect email
Well,
or text comes down to expectations. We don't have as many shared expectations as we need to function 24/7 with this many people. And what I mean by shared expectations, this is my favorite example. I had a boyfriend who um, was first generation Chinese American and we were driving. He was an amazing driver, by the way. We both loved fast cars. We both could drive like we were kind of competitive about how good we were at driving. But we're at one of those big California streets. It's 3 lanes in each direction with a 2 lane, 4 lane in the intersection coming. So we've got 6 lanes and 4 lanes coming together. And at the far corner is we're going through the light. We just get the green, so we start to go. And at the across the street as we go is a grocery store. And there's a woman waiting to come out at the grocery store. We clearly had the green, and my boyfriend braked to let her in on the equivalent of, I mean, people were going 45 miles an hour behind him, and he decides to brake suddenly to let this woman pull out from the parking into the traffic. That is so not United States traffic patterns. And I realized, holy crap, he learned to drive with his mom. That type of politeness is absolutely Chinese culture, where I mean, not entirely because with lines, and I'm making some generalizations here, but the point being, how we learn things and what our expectations are. Like, for example, in Colorado, people know that you don't just go from when your light turns green because people run the red here. And that may be because I speculate because we have winter and people slide through the lights. And so we know that and we have adapted to where we know people run red lights here. That's not normal behavior in other cultures or other driving, whatever.
Yeah.
So the expectations aren't the same. So when someone comes to you with the wrong expectation and does something you know, don't expect, it causes a stress response. Then that's the trigger. How do you respond to your stress response? Do you get angry? Do you laugh? Do you, whatever it might be? But when we meet these expectations and they don't meet what we're expecting, that's the stress response. So when we're traveling in groups of more than 150 and people have different ways of interacting and we encounter them so many times in a day, that's stressful.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think the idea of expectation and it really is a survival. You're basically there's an unknown here that I'm uncomfortable with. I have to set an expectation so then I can feel more comfortable with what's going to happen so I can stay safe. It's your like,
Well, yeah, expectations, we manage our world by having shortcuts, like habits. So when X happens, we know Y is the next thing, and we don't have to think so hard, and we can go into autopilot. And when
yeah.
we're met with things that don't go as predicted, then and the more that happens, it's like a cup. In the morning, we've got a full cup, and something it surprises us. Let's just call it surprise. We pour a little water out. We pour a little water out. And at the end, we have no more water in there. So we are going to crack or.
Well, and I think also with neurodiversity, ADHD, I think it's harder to set those habit loops. I think
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, good point.
we don't really things like those habits aren't as sticky or they don't get as ingrained as quickly as a neurotypical brain, I think,
Yeah, I think you're
because
right.
like routine and just getting up in the morning and doing the same thing, like it's just not in there as the habit loop. It's like I'm thinking through every step, every morning. And so then you're getting your cognitive gas tank is getting hit right out of the gate instead of just being on these habit loops
And then
where
add to that feeling judged because you are struggling more because
yeah.
you've got less gas in the tank. And now you have to write an email to someone who you're not
Well,
sure how they're going to receive
I
it.
I want to introduce one more ball into the air with this whole thing because we've talked about um shame, people pleasing, perseverating, rumination, all these things, which I think happen at a heightened level with an ADHD brain. And then there's also with ADHD and autism brains where like the concept of fairness and justice is also heightened. So we might act like in a hypervigilant manner in regards
Oh,
to what's
yeah.
fair or what's just. Um, and I think that might also lead to like more time ruminating on how is this going to come across? What words should I use? Should I use "Hey man" or should I use what word should I use or
Hey, girl.
yeah, how is this going to come across? Um, am I and I think like rereading those emails, it's like, well, wait a minute, let me reread that thing again because it's like I wasn't that. I was accused of this, and that's not what it was.
Right. I didn't say that.
That's not what I said. That's not what I meant. That was not my intent. And really getting hung up on that. And and to the point of like proving needing the need to prove that to the partner or to the friend, needing to prove that. Um,
When honestly, all we had to do was walk away and later be like, sorry that I said that funny.
yeah. But why is that? But again, that is it's hard to do.
Freaking hard.
It's hard to be like, yeah, I was wrong, or yeah, I could see how that was miscommunicated, or
And people get hung up on words. People get hung up on words. If you say a certain word, but you said you couldn't, or you said we instead of I, or you said I instead of we. You didn't say we, you said I. Or,
mhm.
there's so many little things. And so we have to keep assuring ourselves when rereading those that it was conveyed how we wanted it to, and then it feels good. You know what I mean?
Well,
And I kind of
Feels
get,
it
oh,
feels
yeah, go ahead.
you're
Sorry.
okay with it, like it settles well, because a lot of times when sort of trying to orchestrate an email or a text of that nature, you there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of fear, because you don't want to hurt too bad, but you need things to come across a certain way, and you want to look like you know what you're talking about, and that it's like easy to read, that they completely understand what you're trying to get across. And so we keep trying to validate to ourselves that we did a good job, that we conveyed, because we don't do it that often. I don't think we don't lay something out there with honesty and um intent. I don't think all too often.
we should do it.
But when you're in certain relationships and you have some back and forth on text, it's grueling. It's very, because for us, we're looking for all the right stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
like the melty cheese, cheddar melty hot that I read that only a couple of times. I was like, that's perfect.
To
And
the
then I
wrong.
went to the wrong person.
You're making me think of something. When I moved, so I was a really fortunate kid. I moved from San Francisco area to New Orleans in high school for my last 2 years of high school, and I got to audition for I didn't know that they had a drama art school, the public school that you could go to basically for free to like fame, I'm gonna live forever in New Orleans. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to go. But I didn't find out till the um, after one semester. So I'm in my junior year and I find out by January. So I organize it and I go and audition. I'm like, please, can I audition to, mid-year to your program? And they're like, sure. So I go to audition and I'd been doing theater at my previous school, freshman and sophomore year, and I'd done theater all through elementary school. So I was like, I'm old hat at this. I do my audition. They like me. They're like, yeah, we're going to take you. And I'm like, but I want to be with my class the junior year, not the sophomores, whatever. And they refused to put me with my own grade. And what they said was that cohort, that group, which had started as sophomores together, um, has their own set of expectations. They know how to play with each other.
Hmm.
They know that when they say melty cheese, that means whatever melty cheese means to that specific safe group of actors where they can be unflinchingly vulnerable with each other to create amazing improv and theater. And so they said to me, while you might have the skills and you've learned all the things that our juniors through their sophomore year have learned, we won't do that to them. We will let you join our sophomores halfway through.
Boo.
No, they were right. They were 100% right to keep.
No, I'm sure, but that didn't feel good at the time, probably.
Um, it very quickly felt exactly right. No, they were right. I knew
But
it.
then what'd you do?
I went to theater school with the kids that were sophomores, and
Oh,
I did a semester, a year and a semester. So second half of my junior year and my senior year with my New Orleans Center for Creative Arts folks. Woo woo! Shout out to Noka.
Noka, what up?
Yeah.
Yeah, no
I mean,
getting
you
house.
do.
But they were
Yeah.
exactly right because what that meant was that then it actually took me a minute to catch up to the sophomores because they had gelled as a cohesive, knew what to
But they
expect.
were younger and still new enough that it was convenient for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was
I mean, they could
the
welcome
skill
you in
level didn't
easier than the
matter.
next grade.
It was what it came down to is skills didn't matter, trust mattered a lot more.
Well, yeah, and we learned from improv, you know, that if you have to be one thing that we will do frequently before we do an improv show is before we go on stage is everybody like says I got your back.
Hmm.
Like you pat their back and say I got your back. And so you're built you know that trust is there that like I'm not going to leave you hanging out there on stage. Like
And
if
when
you're
you
going to
send a text,
yeah,
you don't have that. That's what I'm kind of getting at.
right.
Like
Right.
that's what I'm like we are perseverating about these texts. And I miss Jason and his fun backdrop. Where'd you go, Jason?
He's logging back in
Okay.
on
Um,
there he is.
we missed you so much, Jason, but we have your
I don't
back.
know. I don't want to even discuss what just happened,
I hope it was funny
but
and
I panicked
it was fine.
because I don't like technology. I'm so bad with technology. What button did I push? I'm
Oh my
checking
God.
I'm
We
checking
got your
the
back, man.
camera.
Got
It's
your
Did
safe.
back.
something just get moved in front of the camera? I'm like, it's impossible.
We
Can't
were telling as when you were on your hiatus, Jason, just now, um I told Sarah about, like when you say, and I'm sure you did it too, Sarah, in improv, where like you say, "Yeah, I got your back" before you go on stage, just to that point of like, that trust and vulnerability that you have to basically have.
Well, yeah, and I remember, I mean, when working with a group of people for so long, a certain amount of time, you just there is a there's a sense of ease, playfulness. That is true. Even in the improv group we do once a month, we've been doing for a couple of years.
Mm.
That's a group that's a group that you can be vulnerable with, but you also just being around those people, you kind of know little things about each one, how they play, things they gravitate towards. You start to recognize the personalities of these people. So I can see where people have been together for a couple of years in a theater program. Shout
Yeah.
out to Noka. What's up, Noka?
Oh, it's
New
such a good
Orleans something academy.
New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts.
Okay.
They added culinary arts in the last 20 years, and now they
Noka 2.
yeah they graduate chefs as well as actors, writers. Wynton Marsalis went there. Harry Connick Jr. went there.
Sweet.
for
That's
music
amazing.
people. I mean,
Sarah Hines went there.
I did too. So did Wendell Pierce. Did I get his name right? I'm terrible with names. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, I know who he is.
From The Wire.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
He's great.
Talented people.
There's a lot of
He passed away, I think.
No, I don't think so. Don't you dare. No, he's still no.
I'm so bad with the list of are they alive or are they not alive?
No,
I'm
he's
so bad with that
sorry.
list.
We love you. You're
Tell me
just
that Larry
fine.
King died. Is Larry
What?
King, did he pass away yet, Larry
I
King?
think so.
See, I think so. You don't even know for sure.
No, I'm pretty positive he did. Wendell Pierce is totally still alive and kicking. He's such a
Larry
handsome.
I think he
King
passed
passed
away.
about
Yeah,
3.5
10
years ago.
Somebody else passed away.
Well, we're all gonna do it.
Sarah, do you want to
I might forget something, but I'll try to wrap us up.
find a good rap for us here since you did our intro?
I mean, I think it gets back down to what we said to each other, which is, we have to keep trying to be vulnerable, keep putting ourselves out there, even when we doubt ourselves, and know that there's going to be people who don't take it right. And then there's going to be our people who are our improv crew who get it. And sometimes we have to put ourselves out more than just a little bit. We have to develop that trust. That trust doesn't just happen. It happens by taking steps of vulnerability, like of having faith that we will be caught. That if we press the wrong button, our Zoom partners will still be in the Zoom room when we log back on.
And the truth is, it won't mean a thing in 100 years.
Yeah. Try to
Won't mean
enjoy
anything.
ourselves and be loving to each other. Like that's, I recently heard this really amazing thing, and it was, think of your favorite person who makes you feel at ease. Maybe they're alive, maybe they have passed over or passed on. But imagine being a little smaller than them, leaning up against them with your back and taking them and putting them on kind of like a sweater. So you put their one arm over your shoulder and you put your other arm so that they have their arm over your shoulder, and then take their head so that their chin rests on your nose like a big, and then just imagine breathing with them holding you. But we are safe. And
I do that with my cat.
yeah, exactly. And whatever it is to make you know that, like, yes, none of this matters in 100 years. So just feel loved now if you can,
Yeah.
even if
Well
it's your
said.
imagination.
I like it.
So,
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Sarah, for leading us out there. And we will see you next time on This Is How My Brain Works. If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like more info on the hosts, guests, and topics, check out the show notes. Thanks for listening.